Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
All right, fired up for this one, Tom. Got a guy who was nasty in front of the net. Yeah, opponents hated playing against him. Played for the Rangers a little bit, but he's a longtime Islander. Today we have Richie Pilon on the show.
The great Richie Pilon, too. His teammates loved him, too. He's a great team player, too. How you doing there, bud?
Good, Tom. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys for the invite. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, where were you? You're just south of Saskatoon. Is that where you are?
A little bit south.
Yeah, I'm living in Saskatoon now. I've been here since I came back from the Blues in St. Louis, I guess since 03, 04 is when I moved back here.
Right, that's where you grew up, right there?
Well, I grew up in the area. I'm about an hour, I guess, small town St. Louis where I'm from, Saskatchewan. Oh. It's a small town of like 400 people. And then the city here, Saskatoon's a city of 350, 400.
So you started off playing hockey like everybody in Canada, like 5, 6 years old, something like that?
Honestly, I didn't start. I had a bit of a late start. I didn't start till I was like 9, actually, on ice stuff. I was on like outdoor rinks from a very young age with boots and everything else, and played a little bit of whatever. I think back then it was called tom-toms here in Saskatchewan. They were called tom-toms, and then I think that was like pre-novice. So I started that, but then I couldn't afford to play. Right. So then I missed a couple of years and then came back at like the age of 9 to start playing again.
Right. And you're native Canadian too, right?
What's that?
You're native, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm considered considered Métis or Michif. Oh, wow. So Métis meaning that I'm actually, I just did my DNA thing. I'm 49% Scottish, 31% Native American or Native like Indian, right. Like 2% Irish.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and then there's then French. Then the rest is French.
That's interesting, Rich, because Tom's 0% cowboy, but he thinks he's 100% cowboy.
Does he?
Well, hey, I look at your old pictures when I first got to New York. I got the cowboy boots on, the cowboy hat. Oh yeah.
So did I.
Well, did you have that stuff? Oh, that's cool.
Oh, Kelly Rudy pulled me aside my first year because I was such a bad dresser.
Right.
So I used to wear my suits to the game with my cowboy boots.
Oh, I thought that too. Yeah, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, and Kelly was like, "What are you doing?" Like he pulled me. No, what are you doing? He was like, "Rich, I just want to kind of give you a little," because he was kind of a GQ kind of guy back then, and anyways, he was like, "Yeah, your colors really don't kind of go together," and you with the cowboy boots thing, and in a positive way, he wasn't ripping me. He was just trying to help, right? kind of funny when I look back. I was a terrible dresser because I'm colorblind too. So
Are you really? Oh, wow.
yeah.
Well, I had Mark Pavley, so we had the rule like everybody had to wear a tie and a jacket. So Mark Pavley would always wear the flannel shirt and a pair of corduroy pants every day. That's what he wore. So he just put a jacket on and a tie. So
yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
That was Pavley. So, yeah, cool.
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy.
So were you a good player right away once you got going?
You mean with the Islanders? You mean, or
No, when you started off as a kid.
no? I think I was always I was a good skater, but I was really small. So I was small till I was 15.
Wow.
So because of that, I was very, I would say anything I did, I was very competitive. Like I was almost like that little, if I had to compare myself as a kid, would be like a Keith Acton, Linsman kind of a person.
Oh, really?
I was always in everybody's face. I got the shit kicked out of me a lot as a younger kid guy by the older guys because of always being in, very high compete level.
Right.
So, and then, so I, what I always told, like, is you get beat up enough, you start figuring out that you got to learn how to fight. So that's kind of what happened at a younger age, right? Yeah. So I never really did anything to say, I'm the fighter or anything like that. I think it just because I got my ass whipped a few times that it eventually kind of, I always tell people the tough guys are the ones that can take punches, really, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So, yeah. So then, and I kind of, once I started skating and everything, my dad did put me, I know at one time, my uncle helped us out as a family to put me in power skating or figure skating. It was kind of when I was younger, like, I think I was like 10 or 11. And so I went to start skating, like power skating in our hometown here in St. Louis. And then my dad coached me from 10 years old till I was 14. But he coached me in cowboy boots, right? He came on the ice in cowboy boots. Crazy. So when I talk to kids, I do some motivational stuff too with some kids and with people when I do my motivational talks. And I tell that's, it's not sometimes all this stuff that they have now, the opportunity that a lot of these young hockey players have, they all have their skills coach and a power skating coach. And, at a very young age, these kids are getting groomed already because of the dollars that are put on at the NHL level now in sports. And, my dad coached me in cowboy boots, right past Pee Wee. Back was when I first started playing. I got out of house league at 15 when I first came out of house league and played developmental hockey, really. And I was just on a kind of a double A team. It wasn't a triple A team or anything like that.
Right.
And 15, I was playing on a team in this double A team. And when I look back now, the guy's name was Coach Tim Nielsen from my hometown. So whenever we played a very poor team, I didn't play at all. And then when we were playing hard teams, I didn't come off the ice with Tim. So my dad looked at it as that he was trying to, because he was from our hometown. My dad and him didn't get along. He thought it was a way for me not to win the scoring race, right?
Right.
But really, all Tim was probably doing was just making up ice time, right?
Sure.
Because when I was playing a lot, somebody wasn't playing. So, so my dad, about in November, I think of that 1 year, my dad came down into the room in one of these games and basically threw the coach around in the dressing room and said, "Take your shit off. You're done for the rest of the year. You're not playing anymore."
So your father had nothing to do with the organization, really. He was just your father.
He was just my dad, but my dad's like 5'6", 5'7". Right. But he's I would say he's a pit bull is what he is.
Is that right?
Bulldog pit bull, very tough, been stabbed like 3 or 4 times and always in bar fights and yeah.
Oh, okay.
And very, but you meet him and you go, holy geez, that's because I just told a story about him the other day, actually, how, your dad seems so nice. I'm like, yeah, I know. But right. You don't want to piss him off, kind of saying.
It shows how much.
And anyway,
shows how much.
Yeah. So he pulled me off the team. And so the rest of that year at 15 years old, I played old timer hockey in my hometown. I used to do things like on weekends, I used to put a puck in the back door of the rink. And then in the middle on weekends, I would leave the house and go into the rink when Mr. Isidore was our rink attendant. And he knew it was me, but I thought I was getting away. Could I go in and skate 2-3 hours in the middle of the night with just exit lights on, right? Kind of a.
So now, were you dreaming at that point of the National Hockey League, or you just?
Oh, I always believed. Honestly, I was always Guy Lafleur. That's who I was. When I was on the ice, I always was like, I'm Guy Lafleur. That's who that's who my idol was Guy. Right. And So, I always dreamed of playing in the NHL, but I was still small. I was only like 15. I think I was about 5'8", 5'9". But I played as a forward too. I played both because small town, but I was always a centerman, right? And then at 16 years old, from 15 to 16, I grew a lot in that summer. Right. And I went to almost like basically from I used to be 6'1". And an opportunity came to try for a midget AAA team. The Prince Albert, they were called like the Prince Albert Raiders are our tier 1 junior team here in one of the teams where I live close to my hometown of St. Louis. And the midget AAA team at the time, they didn't have a draft like they do now or anything. So you were kind of affiliated with the Raiders somewhat. If you did play for the Raiders, if they brought kids from out of town, you sometimes ended up on that midget AAA team. I tried out for that team, and I tell parents this, and I said, sometimes ignorance is really bliss, because I was going, when you look at all the politics in hockey, and it was probably back then too. My parents didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it. I was ignorant to it. And what happened was I went for this trial for that team, and I wasn't going to make the team. I was getting cut because I was an extra forward, like the writing was on the wall, right? And a defenseman got hurt, and the coach asked me if I would play. Asked the other guy first, this guy Berg, asked him first if he would play, if he wanted to play D, and he goes, I don't skate backwards, I'm a forward. And I said, no, I'll play. I just wanted to play. Right. So the rest of that game, I played as a D-man. Right. And then Coach Pochapinski said, he goes, we'll try you we got a D that's out for the rest of the year. One of our guys that we committed to, would you like to try out as a D-man, play another game, and maybe you might make his team with a D-man? And that's what I did. And that was kind of started my hockey career.
Wow. Your idol would become Tom Laidlaw at that point, or no?
I didn't know Tom yet. I didn't know Tom Laidlaw yet.
I wasn't.
Yeah. So that was kind of the start of it. And then, at 15 years old, you end up, or 16. I was 16 years old playing really for the first time organized hockey.
Right. And so now you've never played D before, and you picked it up right away. So you got it pretty easy, like the backward skating.
Well, I played when I played for my dad from like 10 till whatever those 4 years I played for my dad. I never came off the ice. I was always going from a forward to a defense.
Oh, okay.
So when we had 2 or 3D or 3D, only we had like 9 or 10 kids on the team, right? It was house league, right?
Right.
So I played a lot of defense then and skated. And the power skating obviously helped me for my backward skating. And so that was so then that started. And then at 17 years old, you're still, I got listed by the Raiders. They listed me at 17 after training camp. And then Terry Simpson, which you would know, Terry basically asked me they were going to keep me up as a defenseman. I was close to making the Raiders probably. I didn't know at that time, but he said, well, we'd like to either, maybe send you we want to keep you. And I'm like, well, where do I remember with my dad, I was like, where do I fit in? He goes, well, you'd be an extra guy learning the system, the whole talk, right? The talk that you have when you're grooming you to be on the team eventually. And I just said, no. I said, I want to play. I don't want to be in the stands. And I wasn't talking out of disrespect or anything. I just wanted to play hockey. And I told him then, I said, I want to play. I don't want to be in the stands. I said, no, I can't. I said, I'm not saying that you have to play me, but I want to just go play.
You should have your dad after him, Rich.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have. Yeah. If you'd have known the story, that might have made the team then. Anyway, so then, lo and behold, he was like, we'll send you to Humboldt, play like tier 2, right? And I looked at him and I was like, why would I want to go to Humboldt? Why can't I just go play for the midget Raiders? Because they had just bumped the age up to 17 years old. Okay. So then I went down to play as a midget, a 17-year-old, and then got drafted out of the midget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of...
Not the NHL draft.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't really. You got drafted in the NHL. Wow.
So there's 2 of us. There's 2 or there's 3 of us now that have been drafted out of midget AAA or midget hockey. Right. Brent Bobbitt's the other one, myself, and I think someone just drafted somebody a couple of years ago from Alberta out of the midget league.
We had Darren Langdon on our show too, and he was a similar story. I think he was playing midget or something like that. Yeah, Newfoundland. Yeah,
so I got drafted out of midget, and not even. I remember filling out the form for the New Jersey Devils, a questionnaire for the NHL draft. Right. It was basically, guy was it wasn't really. It was a box thing. It wasn't. Right. Honestly, I couldn't remember all the questions on there, but end up, all of a sudden. filling that out, thinking I had no idea. Honestly, I didn't, but I knew Terry. The reason I got drafted was because of Terry and Rick Wilson. So Terry was obviously, because he was coaching the Raiders, knew me and considered me, knew somewhat my backstory, right? So a late bloomer, kind of, a throwback, right? Skinny for 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so it's throwback of a player, and then get drafted, and then fuck, when I went to here's the craziness. Getting drafted to the NHL, coming back, going to my first NHL camp. I really thought that I still had to make the Raiders when I came back.
Yeah, sure. That's a good attitude.
I was so worried. I was worried that I was going to embarrass the Islanders if I didn't make the Raiders.
Wow. What round did you get drafted in?
I was 7th round.
Did you go to the draft?
I was at Big River, Saskatchewan. I know it's a northern community that I've been going through now the last year here, probably more than I have in a long time. It's a hunting, fishing kind of a community. That's a First Nation Métis community.
Right.
I used to do a lot of chuck wagons, and Al used to call me Ben-Hur, right? And my dad called my sister. She was at home, and my sister said that somebody from New York had called, and that Rich got drafted to the Islander. And I didn't have an agent or nothing, right? And my dad was like, tells me, and I said, well, what do we do? He goes, well, we're supposed to call this number, but we don't have a credit card. So I called the Islanders collect call from a payphone from that small town. And Joanne Holloway, who's with the Islanders at the time, and I think still with them, she's the one that she accepted the call.
Oh, that's funny.
Crazy. And then they told me I was drafted, and then I'd hurt my knee with the Raiders. They had brought me in as a forward late in the year. Terry did during the playoff run. So I played as a forward though, on a banging line on the 3rd or 4th line, whatever it was, to basically go out and just kind of run guys. And I ended up running guys. I ended up fighting Craig Berube and right. And
now, had you been a fighter before this point? Now,
not really, but like I said, I'd fought a lot off the ice. Honestly, as a kid and growing up, like just honestly, not like today. There's no fights now today, right? Yeah. But I got into a lot of fights, like honestly, like rough housing and everything else, right? So, then with the Raiders, obviously, when I started to play with the Raiders, I actually have a funny story here. My first trip to New York, I'm long-winded, so if you just shut me off, Tom, if you want to question. But I end up the Islanders want to bring me to check out my knee. And I'm like, so when I was talking to like Joanne, whatever, or Mr. Torrey, and they're like, well, we'll bring you up next week. Like, this is after now I'm back in my hometown. I'm like, well, Jesus. I'm like, I've never been in a plane. So I'm petrified because my mom thinks they're flying me to New York. Never been on a plane. My mom was praying, like we're Catholic. My mom was praying the rosary all the way from my hometown to Saskatoon, which is an hour and 15 drive. I literally thought I was dying. When I was getting on the plane and taxiing out in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon, it's a small airport, I could see my parents' truck parked. They were watching the plane. Right. And then my mom was by the side of the truck, and she was on her knees still, like she was saying a rosary. They thought I honestly thought, like, I was so scared of dying.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because my parents had never flown before in their lives, right? So I went to New York, and then Terry picked me up at the airport, and he goes, when you know Terry Simpson at all a little bit, he's kind of a dry, humorous sense of guy, right?
I know Terry.
So Terry goes to me, we got to pick up, the season was over, whatever, and he's like, we got to pick up a vehicle from Gerald Diddick and Dale Henry and I think Alan Kerr or something. He goes, they got a rental car, town car. Would you be able to drive it? And I'm like, oh no, Terry, I can't be driving. I said, I'm used to driving like dirt roads and the roads and from St. Louis to PA, because he's from there. Oh, you'll be fine. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do this. I was like, I don't want to do this. He's like, no, Rich, you'll be fine. So we go get his car. There's no cell phones, right? So I pick up this car, and I was glued on him like fly on a shit, man. I got out of that vehicle at that. It was about a half an hour drive. I was on the line on an expressway, and I'm like fucking just scared. I was soaking wet when I got to the Islanders, dressing room, and I got to meet Mr. Torrey and everything. And we get down there, and Joey McMahon was helping out there in their cleanup because the season was just wrapped up, whatever. And so I meet Mr. Torrey. They want me to see Dr. Minkoff, and they go, you're going to have to. Well, I said, well, how do I, tell me what I'm going to have to do for my knee? They go, well, you'll jump on a train and go to the city, and then you'll jump on a subway. I'm like, a subway? People get killed on the subway. right? This is what I tell them. And they go, oh, no, Rich, you'll be fine. I said, no, I'm not going. I said, can't Dr. Mikael come here? They're like, no, you have to go see him in the city. I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not going.
Really?
I wasn't going. I was not going. And they're like, so then Joey McMahon was in the room and he was hearing this conversation. He goes, well, Mr. Torrey, he goes, I can take the town car and maybe drive him in tomorrow. And that's actually what happened.
Oh, is that right? That's funny.
Yeah, that was that was the start of it kind of thing. And
so
it was
when did you finally turn pro then?
I turned pro. So I played, I went back with the Raiders. I played at 18 and as a 19-year-old for the Raiders. I basically went to 2 training camps with the Islanders, did the song and dance, was there for 2 weeks. I think, back then the training camps were longer, but I was there at the minimum. I think my first time was like 12 days and my second time was like 11. Right. I was not even close to be on the radar.
Did you get any?
But I thought with that.
Did you get in any games? Preseason games?
No, nothing my first 2 year training camp. 0. At 20, when I left to go to as a 20-year-old, because the overage in juniors 20, right? Okay. So I was sitting with Rick Wilson, and he goes, Rich, he goes, you're probably going to come back as an overage. Right. And I was looking at him going, okay. In my head, I'm going, I'm not coming back. I'm going to make I'm making the Islanders. I'm done with junior. It's time to move on. Right. That's what I was thinking, right? So I go to camp at basically not even like, obviously the first rounders are what they are. And, there's some that come up the pipe every year. And I get there and Jesus, I was just, my goal was to run anybody and whoever was in my way. And that's kind of what I did. I was running my own teammates in practice and I was playing. And I remember the scouts, Burt Marshall and some of these guys, Earl Marshall or Burt Marshall?
Burt Marshall, it's Burt, yep.
Burt, and then it was Earl. I know his last name, Earl now. Anyways, they were after my practices. They'd be like, "Keep doing what you're doing, kid." Right? Oh, you're. Then all of a sudden, they brought me up. Back then you always separated like the pro guys, and not like they are today. Everybody's mixed, and basically they brought me up with the pro guys, and I started practicing with them.
Wow!
And I was still running guys.
Oh, is that right? What were the guys saying?
Oh yeah, So guys were getting a little pissed off with me at right.
Was like Bobby Nye, was he still Bobby Nye?
Yeah, but no, Nye, that's when Nye had gotten hurt the year before with the thigh injury. Yeah. But, Trotz was there and, Smitty and Kenny Moore, Janssen, right? And so then that was I played 9 out of the 10 games of the exhibition games. Wow. And then Terry brought me and Dean Schnelson. He said, we're going to share a place together. And there would be one spot left for one of us to have because, oh my God, Ken Leiter. Yep. He ended up retiring in training camp.
Oh, okay.
It's had enough. He retired and that opened up a spot. That's how it opened up a spot for us.
Wow.
And
did you sign a contract yet?
That off season, I'd signed the minimum, whatever, because I remember signing. I got I think it was a $15,000 signing bonus. I was about that.
What'd you do with the signing bonus? What'd you spend it on?
Right into the bank account and watched it. Didn't spend it or nothing.
Did you always be good with your money?
I was always pretty good, I think, until as you make more money, you spend more. I think, I just kind of, early in my career, I was really good. And then you just kind of get a little bit loose and a little bit more luck, I guess. So
what year was that then? What year did you start your first year?
88, 89.
Yeah, Rich had a great first year. He had 14 apples and 42 pims.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was, too, like, after I started, I remember, like, back then, guys came after you, like, you had to answer the bell, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, and Mick was like, I remember playing in LA and I ended up fighting, I think, McSorley, whatever, and that's when Gretzky got there, and I ended up tried to hit him, and then McSorley and Jay Miller came after me, like, multiple times.
Right.
Ended up fighting both, and then Mick was like, I didn't know Mick yet. Mick is like, are you trying to, in the dressing room, was like, are you trying to take my job? And I'm like, no.
Are you serious when he said that?
Well, he was serious because that's my job. It's not your job. That's my job, right? Because he wanted, you know what I mean? Because that was his job, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't being disrespectful, but he was like, that's my job, man, Mickey. You know what I mean? Like, let me handle those guys, right?
That's Mick Vukota for everyone else.
So,
yeah.
How'd you do against McSorley?
Okay, yeah, I fought him a couple times, actually. I always tried to get the jump early in my career when I was fighting guys, right? Because I ended up like fighting guys like, Talkett and guys that they weren't heavyweights, but they were tough guys, right? Yep. I didn't really have to. The reason I had to fight the odd tough guy is because I always became a top 2 pairing. Right. So I was always playing against the top 6 guys a lot of times. So then my goal was always to abuse those guys as much as I could. But then obviously when you're abusing them, then they're, the enforcers want a piece of you. And out of respect, sometimes I would answer the bell out of respect of certain guys. Yeah.
It was a tough league back then too. Like if you're gonna,
it was just, you know how like the line brawls, you would set up a line brawl if you wanted to get somebody, right?
Right.
But I was the guy that was their line brawl, like the guy to be like, they're coming after you, Rich.
now did Kenny Baumgartner end up there with you?
Yep. Okay. Bomber was there. Yep. We had a tough team. Yeah, we had a pretty tough team actually.
Yeah, I remember the brawl in the Madison Square Gardens. Right? Didn't at the end of the game, were you part of that brawl?
No, I wasn't. That was Baumgartner and that whole. Yeah, that was ugly. Yeah. Yeah.
And Al was coaching that too, right? Didn't he?
Al was coaching and Mick and them guys. Yeah, it was really.
Yeah.
It was quite. The Ranger Island rivalry. It's probably one of the best ones ever.
It's kind of gone down a little bit now. It's not as violent as it was before. But man, like we had to play against Gillies and Nystrom, and you came along, and we had Nick Fatillo and George McPhee and all those.
Yeah. Oh, there's some tough guys around the ice right now. You don't, it's just a totally different game, and it's the game is faster and everything else, but
yeah, it's a different game entirely. Yeah.
It's a different game. Like people always say, oh, who would Gretzky be as good? I said, you know what, the generational players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can knock it both ways. You could say, okay, well, Gretzky wouldn't have scored as many goals because the goalie's pads are bigger. Yeah. Or Lemieux wouldn't have scored as many because the pads weren't as big as they are today. It's harder to score. Well, no, but they also had guys hanging on it that they didn't call, right?
Yeah.
Score 70, like, Hall scoring 70 with guys draped all over him.
Yeah,
we were holding guys, right? And so you can't really compare. It's apples and oranges. And the generational players are just good no matter what generation they're playing in.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. So how many years did you play with the Islanders?
I played basically 12 with them.
Right. Good.
Almost 12 years. And then I went to the Rangers partway through my 12th year and then played for the Rangers that year and then my end of my contract.
Yeah, Rich was with the Rangers when they were kind of bottoming out there.
Right. Yeah, I came in when Theo and Ricky and who was there.
How'd you get from the Islanders to the Rangers? They trade you?
Waivers. I was on waivers because I was making almost $2 million.
Oh, were you? Wow.
Yeah. And I was just under 2. And then Millbury brought me in because we were going through ownership change. Yeah. And honestly, that's when my drinking kind of went to a whole nother level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when I talk about being having an issue with alcohol, I never tried a drug or anything till I got to the Rangers actually.
Oh.
And I end up trying Coke, right? And that's kind of where my if it wouldn't have been like, if I look back now, it's all, I always tell my son this, I'm like, you can live with mistakes. People can live with mistakes. But I said, once you have a regret, that's the rest of your life. Right. And my regret was that when I tried Coke, it put me to a whole nother level of my love for hockey that I grew up and gave me everything I had or was having. That's the power of addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs. It'll take all that love that you think you could never break.
Right.
With a sport, it will break it. But it does.
So, do you think, looking back, you had a drinking problem your whole career?
I don't. You know what? No, I didn't. Because I didn't drink a lot from the time I was I started drinking at age 12. Okay. Like a couple of drinks. Like I remember Baby Duck went back then. We'd sit in then we'd buy a case of beer. And honestly, 13-year-old, it was norm for your parents to give you a sip of their beer. I remember having lots of sip of my beer off my dad. And, so I believe because it's in my genes. My dad was pretty good. He drank quite a bit and partied a lot at a young age. And then my mom kind of took over the torch. My grandparents are alcoholics right on my mom's side. Right. So I think it's in my genes. It's in my blood. So, when I talk to my kids about it, you don't have to just be aware of it because you may not have the problem, but I did, and grandpa did, and your great grandpa did, so
the drinking was under control until you got to New York and started doing the cocaine.
Yep. I got hurt when I had the eye injury. Remember the eye injury? I don't know if you remember my eye injury.
Yep.
When I had my eye injury, I had more of a free read. Yeah. Because I was making, whatever, I think I was making around 200,000, 250 at the time. I was in my second contract, but I wasn't making big money. I was making, I moved up the ladder. There still wasn't salary disclosure yet, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's right.
That didn't come out yet. So then, but then I got, because I didn't have the curfew, right? I started to meet friends outside of hockey. It's not that they brought me the wrong way. It's just I liked the lifestyle a bit, right?
Now, were you married at the time?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Oh, no, I was engaged. I wasn't married. I was engaged. Yeah.
Good. So after you finished with the Rangers, then that was it. You retired after your stint with the Rangers.
Oh, I actually signed with the Blues, man. I signed with St. Louis for 2 years, and I was making 1.5 there each year. And
at that point now, the drinking is out of control, and you're doing the cocaine.
Well, I'm going there, but I'm in a different place, right? I'm not thinking about hockey now. I'm thinking more about the lifestyle. I'm not thinking about winning a Stanley Cup. I don't believe it crossed my mind. I was thinking more about the paychecks and right. Honestly, that's the truth. And then when I got hurt there with my wrist injury, I broke my wrist against the Rangers, actually. And I played 8 games for them. And now my goal wasn't to be how fast I can get back. It's how fast can I milk this. There's the change that happened to me. And I remember that was one of my apologies, is I actually wanted to call Larry Plow when he signed me to apologize for basically misleading them. You know what I mean?
So this is after you got treatment? Like after?
No, I hadn't been in treatment yet. My wife, basically what happened was I had 8 games in. I'm basically, instead of being part of the team, and when I look back now, and I told my son this actually, because they know pretty much 99% of everything I've done in my life. I said, if I wanted to transition to be a coach at that time, to show, because I was always if it wouldn't have been for my drinking and everything else, I probably would have been captain of the Islanders.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the way we.
Because they actually had talked to me about it, and when Brian McKay became captain, and they were like, Rich, we want to make you captain, but you have to. We know you don't take young guys with you. We know you do. You run a little bit, right? But you're going to have to stop all that because the players know what you're up to, right?
Yeah.
So, and I said, well, I'm fine just being an assistant captain, and I'll support Brian, whoever you guys want to make captain. Right. That's craziness. You know what I mean? Really? You have an opportunity to be captain of an NHL team, but you're going, it's okay. I'll be, you know what I mean? Just, and there's the change from the addictions that I've already set in, right?
Right.
So
at that point, before you left the Islanders, do you think you were addicted at that point?
I was drinking a lot. Okay. I was definitely drinking a lot, but I wasn't, I drank 2 times before. I never drank before game. Like I got drunk before games, I should say. I had maybe 2. I shouldn't say I never. I had two times that I got drunk the night before games. In my whole career.
That was the culture back then too. Not that.
Like we went for lunch every day. Like we went for lunch almost every day. So you're having 6 to 8 to 10 pops in the afternoon, and going home. Right. Oh. That was the norm, honestly.
So you get to St. Louis and finish off that contract. Is that it then? You retired?
Well, yeah. Well, what happened was that first year, going back to that first year, my wife called me into the union.
Oh.
Because I was talking gibberish. I was on coke. I was out of control. She knew I was out of control. And she was now trying to call, like basically she was worried about me. So she called me in. And thank God she did, because in that week that it happened, I had bought some drugs off of some undercover cops.
Oh.
And Kelly Chase pulled me aside. And he said, Rich, he goes, here's what's happening. You got to clean. They know, like basically the Blues know.
Oh,
so he gave me a heads up, right? Well, in that week, my wife called now. Now I've got to go into now they're coming to see me. So that weekend, I remember the security guy for the team, who was kind of a dick. He couldn't wait to fucking make the call on Sunday to tell me that, because the Blues were going to intervene.
Oh, okay.
With my contract, right?
But they could. But it wasn't illegal. There was nothing against it.
What wasn't? No, but they were going to basically suspend me, right?
Oh, okay.
They were going to but they couldn't, because I had already talked to the NHLPA, like the substance abuse program.
Right. So
they were fine.
Dr. Shaw was involved at that point, right? He was.
Yeah, Dr. Shaw. Yeah, though they were coming to see me Sunday. It was already now it was taken away from the Blues, and everything was within our union, right? So. Right. So basically, then I had to pee test every day for like the first, it had to be a good month and a half. They'd come to my house and I had to do a pee test, and then went to like 3 days, right? But I was still a con though.
And they knew everything. They knew everything. They knew about the coke, the drinking. everything.
Yeah, but when you're going through addictions, you always play it off like you're not that bad.
Right. Okay. So now, okay, is your career over at this point then?
Well, I'm looking at the bank account going, I got got another year at 1.3. My wrist is messed up anyway.
Right.
But I didn't want to play anymore. I was more worried about how I paid my dues. My self-talk was, fuck, you abused your body. You deserve to have some fun now, right? When that would have been the time to transition to be an assistant coach, really, because of the love of the game. But my love wasn't the game. It was more about, when do I drink, right? It wasn't worried about doing coke now because I hadn't done coke in a while. And then even after that, I played 8. With that?
On your own, you're able to quit the coke.
Well, yeah, because I had to, because I was doing the piss test, right? Because if I wouldn't have failed those tests, then I am suspended and lose my contract, right?
That's right. Okay.
So that was I was white knuckling it, really. So then I don't play 2 years. I think I'm done. And my agent calls me. You're going to love this story.
Yeah.
Mike owed me a favor.
Mike Milbury?
Yeah, big favor.
Right.
So I had a good relationship with Mike. So Mike, when he's with the Islanders, Spano, remember when John Spano was there?
Sure.
Spano was basically taking over the team, and he didn't like Mike.
Oh.
Okay. So he didn't like Mike, and as soon as he took over, he made Mike was GM coach. He made Mike step down as coach. Rick Bowness became the coach, and Mike became the GM. While Spano was going to blackmail Mike.
Oh.
Yeah. So I knew these couple girls that were a little risque. This one girl, Lee, she tells me she's sleeping with Spano.
Oh.
And I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah. She goes, I'm at all your games, right? Am I okay to talk about this?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, keep going.
This is kind of some juicy stuff, man.
We love it.
So, what's that?
We love it. Keep going.
Yeah.
So then Spano, so I'm like going, she tells me that they got the Garden City Hotel. Spano's got it all set up, and he's going to get Mike on tape, and then he's going to get rid of him because he had just signed a 5-year deal.
So Mike Milbury's got he's got an affair going on, and Spano's got an affair going on.
No, well, Mike might have had his on, but this is what these girls are. No, the girl Lee was with John.
Oh, okay.
Spano.
Right.
She's telling me her and her friend Jennifer, who I know both, they're kind of going to put on a little bit of a show, and then hopefully get Mike with his hands in the cookie jar, basically. Probably, right?
Oh, okay.
So I tell Mike, just off the cuff at the rink, I say, Mike, I said, I don't know what's going on with you and Spano, but I'm like, if you're ever around these girls, Lee and Jen, just be careful.
Right.
All I tell.
This is back when you're playing with the Islanders.
Yeah.
So he owes you this favor now, Mike Milbury does.
Well, yeah, because what happened was all of a sudden the trade deadline's coming on, and fucking all of a sudden he calls me in. I'm on the ice, and Bowness is like, Mike wants to see you. I'm like, for what?
Right.
He goes, you take off your skates and go to his office. I'm like, the whole way, I'm like, did he know about this? Did he know about that? I'm trying to figure out what I did wrong, right?
Right.
So I get in his office. He goes, sit down. I'm like, what's up? He goes, thank you. I'm like, for what? He goes, it happened. So he told me what happened to the room.
Oh.
And he walked out. He just told John he wasn't into it. He goes, I owe you a big favor. If I'm ever in a position to give you a contract, I will. That kind of was it.
Oh, wow.
Moved on. Now, fast forward to 2 years now playing hockey.
Yeah.
My agent calls me. He goes, there's about 5 teams interested in signing you. Florida Panthers being one, right? And then the Islanders.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I agreed to sign with Florida. I was making $900 one way.
Right.
And right at the end of my career, really, which was still pretty good, right?
Yeah, definitely. Now, are you totally cleaned up now? You're off the drinking?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but no, I'm not. Here's the thing. I cleaned my act up for the summer to get into shape, right? To get back into playing shape.
Right.
Did all that, worked hard, got myself back into game shape or playing shape. Then I had to go back into the substance abuse program, and I didn't know.
Oh.
Then I'm like, well, Jesus, I don't want to not drink. I'm like, geez, do I have enough money? Blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, fucking sign with Florida. And then Mike calls me up, and he's like, because Mike matched everything Florida did, right? And then Mike goes to me, he's like, I said, well, fuck. I said, Mike, Jackie doesn't want to go back to New York because of my fucking shenanigans. So I'm going to Florida. Thank you for the offer, right?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Then just a day before I was about to leave for training camp, I went out and I did a bunch of coke, and I called Mike Keenan, and I said I wasn't good to play. I was retiring with an injury, career-ending injury. Yeah.
Wow.
September 12th.
So you had $900,000 on the table, and you decided to do the coke instead of taking
Yeah.
So
yeah, I basically 900 one way, I think it was. And then another, it's like, I had like, it's almost like a 3-year deal.
Oh, okay.
And I basically fucking walked away from it. And then Mike called me. I was walking into Costco about 2 weeks after I had announced my retirement or whatever. Calls me up. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going into Costco." He's like, "Well," he goes, "I'm giving you another offer." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I'll pay you to be an ambassador for the team at, I think it was $250 a year or something like that, or 125, 150 and 200, and for a 3-year deal to be an ambassador
Back in New York.
And I said, "Back in New York." And I said, "Well, what do you mean back?" He goes, "Well," "you'll be an ambassador for the team. You have to come to New York." I'm like, "Mike, fucking Jackie wouldn't go for 900. You think she's going to go?" I said, "You still owe me." That was kind of it. So the crazy story.
So at that point, then the game is over for you. You're done with hockey.
I am, yeah.
Now it's time to change the real world, right? So now are you
New world, fucking out of control. From September of that year till June of the following year, I probably went as hard as I could go with drinking and everything else.
And your wife Jackie is aware of this.
She's aware. She knows I'm out of control. She's waiting to get the call that I'm going to be dead, basically.
Really?
And that's kind of what happened. I felt I couldn't stop at anything. I'd become, that whole self-talk was that I'm no good to be here for anybody. And the best thing for me would be to check out.
Really?
So what I thought the best way to do it would be to make it look like a car accident, but I was actually trying to take my life.
Jesus. Wow.
And that's where the car accident happened. And I didn't succeed in what I tried to do. Thank goodness. Right.
How did you get hurt bad?
Yeah. I ended up, I had 4 compression fractures in my lower back, which is unbelievable that I didn't have more damage, honestly, for the way the truck looked.
So what did you do to the truck? You tried to drive it right off the road, or what you do?
Oh, I totally did. I must have been flying from what it, like the way the way it looked on the highway, right? How I went into the middle of it came out. I did 4 nose over back. I didn't go like sideways. I went 4 this way. Yeah, and basically, but walked away right from the accident, really, at the end of the day. And then,
and at this point,
I had about
how many kids do you have?
2 kids. I have 2 kids. I had 2 kids, Megan and Garrett. Megan's now 27 and 28. Garrett's turning 20.
How old were they at this point when you get in the accident?
Megan would have been probably 9 or 10, since I got 18 years now. So she'd have been like 10. Garrett would have been like young yet.
Right. And now, did they know you tried to take your own life?
They don't now. Yes.
Right. They didn't know then at the time of the accident.
No.
Did your wife?
Nobody knew for the first 3 years.
Oh, really?
Never told anybody. Never told my wife. Never told anybody.
Right. So as far as
knew,
it was just an accident. Everybody knew.
It was just an accident, and so when I did it on June 18th is when I tried to do it. So I went from June, July, August, September, October, November. Those 6 months, I probably drank once a month, but I had a problem. Right. I was white knuckling it, and on November 8th was my last drink of 2004.
Right. Yeah, the cocaine, that continued to that point where you got in the accident as well?
Yeah, it did, and that's what it's like. I was hiding it so much, and I just became when you become the addiction takes over, you become everything. You become a good lie. You become you think you're a good liar, but that becomes a norm, And so I did all that shit of lying, cheating, and just all that bullshit, and I just got to the point where a lot of people get there, and you just don't. You're embarrassed because you become so good at conning people and believing I was a good guy. Everybody liked Rich, but Rich didn't like Rich, right?
Yeah.
So, and I knew what I was really up to. So I thought my only way out was to check out, and then from there I kind of, after I went into basically AA, and on November 8th, and that kind of started the healing process, and then I had 3 years, like I said, where I didn't tell anybody. I was doing a thing for Cameco, which is a uranium mine here. I was working with a guy by the name of M. Gitzel. Right. And I was in La Ronge in the northern community talking about my addictions because I was sober now, right? And I was coaching his son, and he asked me to do this little thing to go talk to people in the north about their drinking. And I was there, and my son Garrett was there, and I was talking about my accident. And when I started talking about the accident, and I was like, fuck, I'm still lying about it, right? And I just looked at I took a moment, and I put my head down, and I said, I'm going to say something. I'm going to talk to my son here for the next little bit. There must have been about 300 people up there. And I started talking to Garrett about, I'm going to get honest about something here, which is going to help me, but it might hurt you.
In front of 300 people you did this too, right? So you're
There's about 300 people in the gymnasium when I'm talking about addictions and kids, and I just looked at Garrett and I started talking to him and apologized for stuff that
How old is Garrett at that time?
Garrett would have been around 9 or 10 at that time.
How did he handle that?
Well, as soon as I started talking and I said that, he ran up and was holding me, right, and we were both crying. It was a very healing moment for me, right? Yeah. So
would you do that again with him? Like, did you think that was, looking back at it, you'd still do the same thing?
Yeah, I would. I don't think there's no real when it comes to telling people about your shitty things. Some stuff you got it. I think I've learned too. Some stuff it's not going to help anybody if you tell them, right? The reason I told him is I had to get the piano off my back because I've been still lying about that, and it was a very, for him, like, to him to understand. He understands today. Like, he's, both of my kids, they drink. They just started drinking in front of me this past summer.
Oh,
where they have a drink in front of me, and I said to him, I said, this is not your problem. This is my problem. So, and it's not a problem anymore. So you guys are, just be careful. That's it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you love yourself now?
Yeah, I would say I do. I'm still not perfect by any means. Like, I do a lot of stuff. So what I've done since in the last little bit here is I've gone into equine mental health with horses.
Oh,
so the business I have here in Saskatchewan, doing really well. I've been a year. I started right after I left Weyburn. I go up to northern communities. I talk about mental health and addictions. Stuff in the last 5 years I've learned. I've got ADHD that I just got. I didn't know. I've had it my whole life. I just basically somebody told me. So it kind of makes sense now to me, like a lot of things that have happened in my life. So I'm very driven. Once I get my closet or my mouth on something, whatever it is, I'm fucking all in. But I'm all in until I get bored, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking for something else. I always need that fix. I need something to get excited. Not the crappy thing about having ADHD, but now at least I'm on medication. I'm on, I'm taking, I take medication for being depressed because I am depressed, right? You know what I mean? I didn't, as a person that's dealing with mental health, you always think that it's just you don't say shit, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm open about it, and I take my pills every day, and they keep me at a place that I'm hoping to be making more better decisions. Not that I'm going to make all good decisions, but my decisions definitely are better than they used to be.
Yeah. Well, and you and I played roughly the same time period in national hockey. And back then, I mean, part of it is, I'm not blaming the National Hockey League, you're blaming hockey anyway, but you just don't open up about your feelings at all as a man.
No, you don't ever talk about, I tell my kids every day I talk to them, love you, have a great day. And my dad still has never said that. My mom says it, right?
That's more a generational thing than a hockey thing.
It's a generational thing, yeah. Like where, and you're more open about, people say, well, is it good to talk about your problems? And well, I always tell my problems, hopefully. But I told my kids this. That the reason I tell you all about my shit, because you're going to make your own.
Yeah.
You're going to make your own mistakes.
Yeah.
Totally. Me telling you is hope that maybe you don't make the same ones I did, because you're going to have your own that you're going to make, right? That's all it is, right? So,
well, we've had some great guests on the show, like Clint Malarchuk, Corey Hirsch, Stefan Toll, and yourself. The stuff that you've dealt with, now that you're telling other people, you're helping other people too, right? So now, not only helping yourself, but you're helping others. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like the horse stuff now that I do horses, I do a thing. It's called in-stride equine therapy, and it's horses and hockey.
Right.
I've got a girl that works with me. She's a behavioral therapist, so she works with kids with autism around the spectrum, and she's with family dysfunction. And it's turned out to be really, it's kind of taken its own life.
Right.
And we don't I don't know where we're gonna go with this, but it's getting to be it's getting big. Right. So which is really,
this is your career then. Right.
Yeah, right now, yeah. I basically drive horses, tell my story, have some fun. I'm a bit of I'm a jokester with people. I'm good with people, right?
Yeah, you are. You're always have been.
Yeah, that's kind of been my thing. I've always been good with people, and so it's kind of one of my strengths is kind of making, as much as I call people out a little bit black and white, my political stance is not the best at times, but kind of get where you stand with me. So
yeah, Richard, where can we find some info on your this business?
You can go to Saskatoon Sleigh Rides on Facebook.
Oh, Saskatoon Sleigh Rides, okay.
Sleigh Rides, and then you'll see in there's a thing called there's a link there that says In Stride Equine Therapy.
Great. We'll look because our viewers need something. They can't see Tom taking the shirt off and lifting every day. So.
Yeah, you'll see me. I drive. Honestly, you know what I do? This is really what I do. So when I do my talk to the young people, the young people, is I talk, depending on the age, I go from grade 3 to grade 6. It's usually about just being a good human, right? Yeah. Then grade 7 to grade 9 is a little bit more about where I've, what I've done. And then kind of 9 to 12 is another layer of, you can get a little bit more honest with them. And then we do when we give rides on my wagon and everything to the kids, really what it is, it's when you look at the northern people, like, because they don't have a lot out there, we basically, on the mental health, we bring happiness to them. Sure. Is really what we do. So those young people that are struggling, young kids that have, it's not, the parents are maybe drinking, and they have it's tough living is really what it is. Yeah. But for that moment, we're there we're usually going a 2.5 to 3 day turnaround. We bring some fun and some happiness to people. Yeah. And we've now created relationship with some young people that we're making a difference in their life, really. And that's what it's really all about. It's not like you sit there and you do equine therapy and the horse is going to fix you how to be a better person or be a better spouse or anything like that. It's the horses, what they do is they put you in the moment. Right. And when you're dealing with addictions and depression, you're either thinking too far ahead, that is your anxiety. When you're thinking about all your shit in the past, there's you're being depressed, right? Because you hate what you come. So horses, what they do, especially if you ride them, for that moment you're on a horse, you are now in the moment and giving your brain a break, really, at the end of the day.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Rich Pilon, you've come a long way there, brother.
Hey. Yeah, it's crazy. When I look back sometimes now, even what I'm doing with this stuff, I'm like, would I change anything? Probably not. You know what I mean? I would change my drinking back early, but shit, now it's made me who I am and what I am. And
I was just going to say that, right? I mean, you look back, I'm the same way. I like, see, well, could I do it differently? Well, yeah, but I am who I am now. I love who I am now, right?
Yeah, like, you look at people, so we always look at somebody and we always think, oh God, how does that guy do it? Why does that guy look like he's got his life all straightened out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But until you walk in, what's that?
It's because they're all faking it.
Well, that's what it is too. Until you walk in somebody else's shoes, whether you walk in, I'll never know how really bad you are. Or I may say I'm bad, but our thresholds of bad changes from human to human, right? So, yeah,
wow,
pretty good.
Well, Rich,
yeah, good.
You've turned into you're quite a man before. I always really say, I think your teammates all loved you back before when you're playing, but the man you become now is a pretty special person. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate. At the end of the day, I'm fortunate. You know what I mean? So happy that I got to play in the NHL. Happy. I wish I would have changed things. Can't. It is what it is. Yeah. Now it's about trying to, I use this term with people is, you get up every day and when you look in the mirror, and this is the way somebody will tell you, do you like what you see, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what do blind people do?
Well, good point.
Right? It doesn't matter what you see, it's what you carry in your heart. Right. You know in your heart what you are.
Yeah, totally.
You really do. What you see on the mirror, that's because some people may have deformities, some people may not like what they look like as a human, but they're still a good person, right?
Totally.
So I think what your heart and at the end of the day, how caring are you? How loving are you want to be? Or, you know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to.
Well, and you're knowing this too, that by helping other people, you feel better about yourself too, right? You're helping those.
That's all it is, man. Yeah, it truly is, man. Helping other people, opening the door is a little thing that makes you feel better about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on the show, Richie. That was a fantastic story. I didn't know all that stuff. But
yeah. No, you're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you should be very proud of yourself too, with what you've done with your life. Seriously, as a man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Come on, Rich.
Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, Tommy. And yeah, reach out anytime.
All right, brother. Great to see you. Good job.
Hey, Brett, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like or love the Full Change podcast, please like, share, leave a review. Tell everybody, tell the world, tell all the universes. All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.
Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, FDA approved for over 20 years. So, talk to your specialist to see if Botox Cosmetic is right for you.
For full prescribing information, including boxed warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
Remember to ask for Botox Cosmetic by name. To see for yourself and learn more, visit BotoxCosmetic.com. That's BotoxCosmetic.com.